Welcome back to take 2 of April's second video on her journey with God. Hi, and welcome to 15 Minutes with Patsy. We're glad you're watching, and we hope this video encourages you. Please go back and watch the previous video, and there will be another one coming out next week at 8 o'clock in the morning, so always watch for our videos to post on Wednesday mornings. I want to read, I've been reading in my Bible today and some different things, and I just want to read the Psalms, first Psalms, verse 3. And I thought about April whenever I was reading this and her journey. He is like a tree planted beside flowing streams that bears its fruit in its season, and its leaf does not wither. Whatever he does prospers. All right, April, you can take it from there.
Thank you, Miss Patsy. All right, so we're going to recap a little bit from the first video about kind of where I ended, I think, at that time. We talked about how my husband got on methamphetamines and how he got there. He was introduced through people at his work, turned out to not be friends, and so that's how he came introduced to methamphetamines. I didn't find out that he was on methamphetamines until after he had gotten, I had him voluntarily committed into the hospital, and that's when I found out that he had been using. And after we started putting two together, we realized that he had been doing it for about a year. We started noticing, just like some behavior changes and things like that, which kind of just all made sense at that point of what he was doing. If you know anything about methamphetamines, or if you've experienced a family that has had that addiction, you know that it makes them crazy. It really does. It just messes with the mind. Yes. It destroys the brain. They start having hallucinations. They start seeing things that is not there. So accusations and things like that can start transpiring. It gets very, very, very stressful. And so not only does it become very stressful, but it does get very overwhelming, and it does destroy a family. So you can imagine, just if you're not on drugs, and how you might get accused of something, how it can irritate you. You know, that you're getting accused for something that you never did. Well, this is multiplied by 100 times. So it becomes a lot. And so I had to end up moving him out of the home because I had to watch over my shoulder nonstop, because I never knew what was going to happen the next day. Whether he was living in the home or whether he was living outside the home, I still had to watch over my shoulder. So I really had to change door locks and put locks on the crawl space of the house, and just a lot of different things, because it was getting crazy. So with all of that happening, it threw me into a very deep, dark depression one night, to the point where I was contemplating on taking my own life. But because I was vulnerable and I was so deep in depression, the enemy took over. The enemy took over my mind and was trying to pull me into that dark side to say, hey, it's okay. Let's put you out of your misery, and let's go ahead and end it here. And I was to that point. And I was the person that would always say, what makes a person take their own life? I never could understand that. And going through that myself now makes me understand how somebody's mind can change into that level of thinking.
Right. Yeah.
It can happen. It can happen to any of us. So I do sympathize with people that are battling depression, because when you're vulnerable like that, the enemy is going to attack harder.
Oh, yeah.
But what happened is God said, nope, I'm not allowing this. I'm not allowing it at all. So at that point where I was almost to that point, Colby, my youngest son, walked into the room, and I was, just in an uncontrollable cry, a deep, painful cry that I have never experienced before. It was horrible. My heart hurt so bad. But Colby came in and he just hugged me. He just wrapped his arms around me and hugged me, and he said, "Mom, I need you to lay down and go to sleep. Just you need to go to sleep. You need to rest. You need to calm down." And if God wouldn't have sent Colby in there at that time, I'm not for sure if I would even be sitting right here today to tell you what I went through and the journey that I went through.
Yeah.
So God does work.
Oh, yeah.
He does. And sometimes we don't listen.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we ignore it, right?
Yes,
but we got to quit ignoring it. When we hear something, we have to allow that to move in our life. So with that said, the next day, Colby, he actually said, "Mom, I think we need to go back to church." And I'm like, "No, I'm not going back to church," because I was church hurt. I was one of these ones that was church hurt.
Right.
But I didn't really understand that I couldn't allow the people in the church to stop me from having a relationship with Jesus.
That's right.
And so I learned that as I progressed through my journey. So if you are, or if you have been church hurt, understand that people is going to hurt you everywhere. Not just in a church, but in your life in general. And so you have to learn how to let that go. You have to learn how to say, "I'm not here for you. I'm here for my relationship with Jesus."
That's right.
So it takes some time, but you can get there, I promise. So I was like, all right, so I'll go on Facebook and I'll just post, give me some recommendations for some churches. And I did have the most responses of saying, Propel. And I'm like, okay, we're going to go test out Propel. But I was one of the ones that said, I am not going in there alone. I refused to do that. So I reached out to someone that I did know that went there, and they met me out in the parking lot. So that, needless to say, started my journey back into church. And so with that said, God strategically placed the people that is in my life today through Propel. Okay. He knew that I was going to need these friendships. He knew I was going to need these people that did not judge me, that could help me rebuild my faith in God, but also offer me that friendship that I needed. To where, hey, if I needed prayer today, I could reach out to him and say, "I need prayer." So he put me there, and I decided to stay, and I've been there. I don't know. I've lost count. It's
been several years.
Maybe 4, going on 5 years, maybe. But I wouldn't change it for the world. So to make a long story short, as my time has progressed with Propel and just the friendships and the guidance that I have received, not only from my friendship, but also from my pastor, my husband had several more times of relapse. Several more times of being committed. But there was one day that my pastor did approach me, and he asked me how I was doing.
Right. And
I try not to fib, when somebody asks me that, but sometimes people can just tell there's more happening. But I decided to share with him the things that was going on, and he bluntly told me, "Stop enabling him." And I just kind of but what if he dies? He said, "It's not your fault. You've done everything that you possibly could do. It's not your fault, but you've got to quit enabling him." And I was like, how is he telling me that? How am I enabling? And it kind of upset me. It really did. But I went home and I asked God to show me how I was enabling my husband. And he showed it to me. And I said, "Okay, Colby, come here. We need to talk." And he was like, "Mom, I've been trying to tell you this for a while now." I'm like, "Yes, you have." So I basically cut out access to everything. I took his vehicle, stopped giving him money. he had to move in with his mom, you know, all that good stuff.
Mhm.
And so I had to let him hit rock bottom.
Yeah.
You know, I just had to.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to remember from there. Where were we? I'm sorry. So yes, so I'm going to end right there because we're at that mark, but we will start back at that point of where I stopped enabling my husband, and how I heard God speak to me through that.
Yep. Well, we look forward to the third part of April's journey, and be sure and check it out next week. Well, this is supposed to be the 23rd video, but check out the next one on April the 30th and listen to the rest of April's journey. Bye.